guys, and welcome to the Bring Your Own Kool-Aid podcast. This is a place for serious professionals to be seriously unprofessional. So come on in. The Kool-Aid is fine.
I think I'm fucking hilarious.
You are fucking hilarious. Do you know what? I was saying this to my friend the other day. Um, I didn't know, this is gonna sound fucking ridiculous. I didn't know I was funny until I was 19 years old. Because I don't know, I'm a fucking idiot. But I was working at a theatre over here, and like one reason or another, I was considering handing in my notice. And I said to the assistant theatre director that I was considering handing in my notice. And she was like, "Oh, please don't. You're the funniest person I've ever met." And I was like, "What the fuck are you on about?" I was like, okay. I was just like, do you know what I mean? Like just going and being myself every day. And I
Mm,
think it was probably at that point that I realized that maybe I wasn't like all the other like all the other people, because to me I wasn't funny and I was just being normal and
mm.
chatting to somebody. And maybe that's why the other theatre director didn't like me, because maybe they thought I wasn't taking the job seriously enough, or maybe I wasn't professional enough. I don't know. But there's
Yeah,
a massive difference between being down to earth and approachable and a bit silly and having fun than being unprofessional and a bit of a twat. Do you know what
no,
I mean?
yeah. So I think, but I've had that a lot, right? So one of the reasons that I haven't fitted in most of my jobs is because of my sense of humor,
Mm-hmm.
and I've always been told that I'm funny, and I think I'm fucking hilarious, but. It was always that people who didn't like it were the ones telling me that it was unprofessional and that I was unprofessional. And I was like, hang on a minute. There's taking your job seriously and
Yeah,
there's taking yourself seriously. And I don't take myself seriously at all. And I can be really self-deprecating because it's funny and it's funny to take the piss out of yourself. But I take my job really seriously. And that's the thing when you said about being professional, like I don't have the same view of what professional means that a lot of people do. Because I think professional means if you give me your money and I tell you I'm going to do something, then I do it.
yeah,
And I do it when I said I was going to do it. And I do it as well as I promised to do it. And that for me is the long and short of professional. I don't have to, I never said that I wasn't going to swear. I never said that I was going to do it fully dressed. I never said that, I was going to, do it and speak the Queen's English or that I wasn't going to have a really good laugh while I was doing it. I said that I would do it and I would do it well. And
yeah,
that to me is professional.
yeah. It
And
is.
and if being professional requires me to be a miserable cunt at the same time, I'm not up for it.
But what I think what you said was like absolutely spot on. It's like I don't take myself seriously, but I take my work seriously, and that's why I started the Facebook group, because I had somebody say to me, um, I had somebody say to me about the things I was posting on my wall, and not that I took it to heart and thought I can't be posting this stuff and I shouldn't be saying this stuff, but I thought if I'm on, well, my Facebook profile is my Facebook profile. It's not. It was never a business thing. I've
Mm.
had it since I was like 17 when I was at university or whatever. Um, but obviously, it's kind of developed into that way. But I felt like if I'm being told that some of the things I post are a bit close to the bone, maybe there are other professionals who are also maybe being told that some of the things, you know, might be a little bit pushing their luck a little bit. And because I'm going through family court and stuff like that, there are spies. So I like the group because then it's quite secret. You can post
Yeah.
whatever you want.
Safe, it's safe. And that's the thing. See, we've been through family court as well. And you've got to you're writing every message and every email and everything. And in the back of your mind, you've got to be thinking, how would this sound if it was read out in court? So, Yeah, I get that. And I get that. And I think, it's an entirely different circumstance, isn't it? For, most business owners aren't in your, in your situation where you could probably, under normal circumstances, you could be like, well, if this turns you off, it turns you off, deal with it. But you're not in that situation.
No, and when things get taken out of context, when it's like, oh, look at the terrible things this person is saying, you're like, well, I'm not actually specifically saying it about you. I just think it's quite funny. So like maybe you should take yourself less fucking seriously. But anyway, but
Yeah.
people are like that. Like I remember when I first when I changed from Fit Pro Assistant to Virtual Collaborative, um, I and my Fit Pro Assistant one was at gmail.com. So it was like a free email. And when I got Virtual Collaborative, it was like a proper business person with a domain and all of that kind of stuff. And I don't know if you remember, because Facebook changes so much, but do you remember when Facebook brought out milestones? Like you could put like got married to such and such on
Oh,
this
yeah.
date, graduated university, right? I I put mine because bearing in mind I would have been like before I was a mother, before I had a business, so I would have been like early 20s, whatever. I put my milestone as I did a shit. And it was just there. It just lived on my Facebook profile forever. And I forgot all about it, right? My first ever email to my virtual collaborative.co.uk was somebody telling me that they had seen on Facebook that I had put my milestone as did a shit. They told me that they would never work with me. And this was anonymous as well. Like I didn't know because I put it through like a web form. So they told me that they'd never work with me because I had put that I'd done a shit and it wasn't professional and I needed to seriously reconsider the type of content I was putting out. And
And you
even
person.
I couldn't even reply to them because it was anonymous. So I didn't know who had done it. And I just thought this person must have gone back fucking years or like really, really like gone through my Facebook profile to find this. And I remember the excitement, oh, got my first fucking business email. Oh my God, someone's come through my website. Oh my God. And then you're just unprofessional and you said you did a shit. And I just thought, that's it.
Like what? Are you constipated, you? Do you need some syrup of figs or something? Oh, do you know what? And the amount of unsolicited advice that you get as a business owner. God, what did I have? I had somebody, this was in the real early days of my business, right? Now we are talking like when I was charging 40 quid for a blog, right? Oh my God. We all go on a journey, right? We all go on a journey. Um, and someone from an agency had contacted me and she'd wanted me to put this quote together. And I put the quote together and I sent it over. And she was really offended by my prices. And then
Okay.
she came back to me, she sent me this really arsey email telling me that I needed to be more realistic in my pricing. I was like, well, maybe you need to be more realistic about what you're asking people to do for the money you're offering. But
Mm.
like at the first time it happened, I was devastated and I was like, oh my God, am I really greedy? Have I done? And I think like by the third time I was like, oh, fuck off. You're not for me then. And what else did I have? I had people pointing out typos and stuff like that.
God.
And because in the work you do, that will really turn people off. And I was like, will it though? Because like it's my post and typos happen and it's not the end of the fucking world. But I mean, 6 years in business in October and you still get it, don't you? These people. I mean, I had someone last week, and it was so funny in the end because she'd sent me a message about 7:30 and she was interested in doing the challenge that I've just promoted. And I was like, yeah, no problems. Here's the information. And when I replied, I'd called her Joanne instead of Joanna, right?
How fucking dare you?
But you know what? I shouldn't have replied when I was in bed because my eyes hadn't opened properly and I could hardly see, right? So then she came back and she said, it's Joanna, not Joanne. And I was like, I'm really sorry. Your name's right there. Apologize for that. And she said, and if in doubt, just call me Joe. I was like, all right. And I thought that we were over it. And then she came back and she was like, no, do you know what? She said, that's really, put me off working with you now. And as a copywriter and a marketer, I think that's just like a really major red flag for me that you've done that. So, I definitely don't want to work with you. And I was like, that's fine. I said, I've said sorry, and we'll just agree that it's not a good fit.
Mm.
Just thought, take it on the chin. Things happen. I've spelled her name wrong. She didn't like it, whatever. And then she came back. She went, no, don't use that excuse that we're not a good fit. You've made a mistake and you need to own up to it. I was like, oh my word. I was like, I have apologized. And actually, I'm going to stand by we're not a good fit, because actually, my ideal client hasn't got sand in their vag, and they, they're more generous and forgiving, and I have already apologized, right? But
Yeah.
you know what? I beat myself up over that stupid mistake for about 3 days, and then on the third day I read the message again. I'd spelt my own name wrong. And I was like, oh my God. And then I was just totally over it, because I was like, oh my word. I put an E on the end of my own name. I thought, if I couldn't spell my own name right up at 7 in the morning, I got no chance spelling yours
Oh,
right. But
Jesus.
yeah, it's just, people are just odd, aren't they? But I think she did me a massive favor getting the red flag in there that early.
People are batshit insane.
When I think I was about, God, I must have been about a month in, and somebody sent me a message and said, oh, I can see that you're doing marketing, and I live just down the road from you. Do you fancy meeting up for a coffee? Because I've got some, I could potentially have work for you.
Mhm.
And I was really, green as you like. And I was like, oh yeah, that sounds great. Oh, more work, amazing. And then I met up with her, and she basically spent an hour telling me how great she was, about all the marketing qualifications she had. And she wanted to know what I was doing and what I was charging. And then and I told her about a few ideas I had. And she was like, oh, don't do that. You haven't got the audience for that. You need to do this, for at least a year, and you need to do that, and you need to do the other. And then it came about that she didn't have any work for me. She never wanted work. She was just checking out the competition. And I
Uh,
and I was like, you've dedicated a whole hour to checking me out,
oh,
and you could have just spent that time like working with clients or doing your own marketing. And I
mm,
think if you spend your whole life worrying about what other people could potentially take away from you, you end up with nothing, because
yeah,
you're just so busy building a wall around yourself. You don't go anywhere, you know? And I didn't listen to any of her advice, and I'm so glad I didn't, because like one of the most successful things that I've ever done in my business was the exact thing she told me not to. And I'm just like, No. And I just thought, but it tell you what it did. It showed me what type of business owner I didn't want to be.
yeah.
That I would, spend my time going around pissing on other people's ideas and pissing on other people's dreams. So when
Mm,
people say to me now, do you think I could do this, or do you think I should do that? I'm like, fuck around and find out. Try it.
yeah,
What's the worst that can happen? You try it and it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
yeah.
But, I would never tell somebody that they shouldn't do something. I remember saying to my coach years ago, like, oh, because I wasn't very resilient when I first started. And, people could like drop shitty comments on one of my posts, or they could send me a private message, or they could, anything that I perceived as
Mm,
a telling off or a criticism, even if it wasn't,
mm,
and anything and everything really used to knock me, and it would knock me for days. And so I kind of said to my coach, right, I said, I need to build resilience. Where do I go to build my resilience? And she was like, you have to have conflict to build resilience. You can't build it without it. And I was like,
oh,
sake, that's really fucking inconvenient.
yeah.
I wanted to go and take like a 2-day course in resilience and come back resilient. That is not what I wanted to hear. But it was, and it's those bad experiences that kind of, you have to realize, do you know what? This is life. This is, and I remember somebody else saying to me, this is the emotional cost of doing business. And it's also like the emotional cost of being a human being. You come
Mm.
into contact with other human beings. Some of them you're going to get on with, some of them you really ain't. And it's kind of, you learn about yourself, you learn about your boundaries, and you learn about how you're going to deal with these people. I remember taking on this client, and she was in Switzerland, and she wasn't, the communication wasn't brilliant. There was a bit of like a satellite delay. And I'd said to, I'd had like an onboarding call with her, and I was like, right, so this is what I'm going to write.
Mhm.
These are the topics that I'm going to cover. Is this okay? Can you read it, sign it off, let me know that you're okay for me to crack on and start writing you some content. And she came back, she went, yeah, that's all fine. That's all fine. I was like, right. So then I sat down and started doing the donkey work, sent off the first draft of the content. There it is. Can you read it? Let me know what you think. And her email back was, what is the reason for this absolute load of bollocks? And I
No.
was stunned. And I was like, what? And I was like, first of all, what the fuck? And second of all, who do you think you're fucking speaking to?
Yeah,
I
Jesus.
I went back and I said, just for clarity, this absolute load of bollocks is what you signed off on. It's what you told me to write about. And second of all, I don't work with people who speak to me like that. So
Mm.
consider this working relationship terminated. And it was kind of, but I think if that had happened a couple of months or even 6 months before, I probably would have gone, oh my God, I'm so sorry. What did I do wrong? But then
Yeah.
it's kind of, because then, I mean, it doesn't happen often. But then there was, I worked with someone. Oh, this was terrible. And she wanted me to write, it was awful, right? She wanted me to write a LinkedIn profile. Got to know her and everything, did the call. And then I wrote the LinkedIn profile. And then I sent it to her and she was like, that's great. But I've decided I want to pivot and I want to do something different. So I need you to write it again. And
Mm.
what I should have done at that point was I should have said, okay, but that's a separate piece of work.
Yeah, okay. I'll send my
Yeah, yeah.
invoice. Yeah.
But I didn't. I went, oh, okay. And then I rewrote it. And when I rewrote it, oh, I'm not happy with that. I want a refund. And I was like, I've done the same bit of work twice. What are you even talking about? And I was like, absolutely not. And then she went batshit on me and she was like, I'm gonna tell everyone that you've taken my money off me and you've delivered subpar work. And I was like, oh, do you know what? Take your money and just fuck the off away from me.
Yeah.
And then I saw her put a post on LinkedIn asking for someone to write her LinkedIn profile, and about 5 different people tagged me. I was like, no.
No, don't.
But also, I felt like, it's a bit of a poke in the eye because if you'd spoken to me tidy, we could have probably done,
Yeah.
like obviously lots of people are saying that I'm good at this and you've just fucked it over. But yeah, people be peopling, man.
You
They're
don't
weird.
you don't talk to people like that unless you've got a good working relationship. Like I can, my clients can say to me, because they've been working with me for fucking years, like, what the fuck is this bullshit? And I'd laugh and be like, oh, oops. Not that they would, because, why would they? But
Mm.
there's a different relationship. I had this guy, fucking hell, I had this guy when I was fairly new again. See, it's all when you're new, isn't it? It's just like, you just know after a few years, like, fuck this shit. But I had this guy who wanted me to help with his business operations, obviously. And I was like, okay. And I think I charged like £300. And again, it was like, not a lot. Probably was too scared to say, you're going to need more hours, it's going to cost more money. But anyway, and bearing in mind that you pick your own hours, right? You do things when you want to do them as long as they get done. And I've spoken to some people who are like, you shouldn't have left it to this, like, so late in the day. But I did. I'd had the flu, and he had said to me, I just want you to get this email out. If you do nothing else, can you just get this email out? And I was really, really sick to the point I thought I had COVID, but I didn't. It was just bad flu. And I ended up, I think it was like Saturday night at about 10 o'clock. I tried to log into his email system, not realizing that it would do two-factor authentication. Yeah, I was like, son of a fucking bitch. So it sent him the code, and I was like, and the email had to go out on like Monday at 10 o'clock in the morning. So even had time if I chose to do it on Monday morning at 9, but whatever. And he was like, why am I getting sent codes at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night? And I was just like, I'm just trying to schedule that email for you. Like, if I just need the code so I can get in. And he was like, this is entirely unacceptable. Like, proper went off on one. And I was like, okay, I'm sorry, but you are on your phone. So you have the code. So you can send it to me and I can schedule this email. And he was like, no, I need to consider whether or not I want you to schedule this email. And then, so up until this point, I was like, fair enough, acceptable. Maybe I shouldn't be trying to do this at like 10 o'clock on a Saturday night. Could have spent any time on Sunday doing it, could have spent the Monday morning doing it, whatever, I accepted that. But then he started going like, I thought when I spoke to you that you got this. I thought that you got the kind of relationship that I was looking for. I thought that you understood that I needed somebody who wouldn't leave me until 10 o'clock on a Saturday night, where I wouldn't just be an afterthought, where I wouldn't be having to have these conversations, questioning how much you want to work with me and how much you want this, how much you want this relationship to work. I thought you understood what this was. And I need somebody who's not just going to have me as an afterthought. I need somebody who's going to be thinking about me all day, every day. And I was like, I really wanted to reply saying, I ain't your fucking girlfriend. Like, what the flying fuck is this? I was just like, do you know what? I didn't understand that. And I don't think I can give you that relationship in, air quotes, that you're looking for. So maybe it's best I don't schedule the email. Then he was like, I can't believe you're leaving me and not scheduling this email. I was like, I need the code to schedule the email. Can I please have the code? No, I need to consider again. No, I need to consider if I'm going to give you this code or not. And I was like, do you know what? I can't help you then. Then he did the whole, I can't believe you're not going to schedule this email for me. And he was just like, I want a refund. And I was like, okay, absolutely no problem. You can have a refund. And I'm really petty. So when I do refunds, I call them service retractions. I've only had to do a couple in all my time working, but I always call them service retractions rather than refunds because it just amuses me. And I refunded him, and for some reason, I thought about him the other day. I don't know why. I don't know if I was like talking to somebody else in this kind of way where we're talking about fucking shit shows and horror stories, and it turns out he's under investigation for fraud. So I was like, I fucking knew he was a wrong'un, and he's quite a well-known fraudster within our kind of space and community. There are people that we love and care about that he has kind of taken substantial amount of monies from and just fucking left them. So I'm really glad that I cut ties with that guy when I did. But I think sometimes you just know when someone's just fucking weird. Like, I found that just utterly bizarre. But it was like I said, it was like wanting to say to him, I'm not your girlfriend. Why are you talking about the relationship? Like, I thought you knew what relationship I was looking for, and I don't want you to just think of me at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night. It was just like,
do you know what? You're not looking for a VA, you're looking for an employee.
yeah.
And I am not your employee. And I think it took I'd worked really hard to pick and to make sure that the clients I was going with knew that it was a partnership. I'm not your employee, and I was really resolved about that right at the beginning, that any relationship is like a partnership, not in a weird way like that, but like this is an equal partnership.
Yep.
And I'm not the paid help.
Yep.
And that has been a really important thing for me in picking my clients.
Yeah.
I remember this I am a twat magnet. an online twat magnet. This it was a lady. I always get the women. She's asked me to do a piece of work. And I thought, oh, do you know what? It was giving me vibes, but I thought, do you know what? I'm going to send a contract over. And I sent over a contract. And then she said, oh, I'm just going to get my solicitor to look at it. And I was like, all
Wow.
right. But, when what? This is for less than £1,000, but whatever, knock yourself out.
Yeah.
And she'd sent my contract back with amendments. And I was like, that's not how it works.
No.
Like, these are the conditions under which I will do the work. It's a yes or a no. It's not a yeah, but I don't want this bit, and yeah, I don't want that bit. It's not a restaurant, love. It's not a buffet. You don't get to choose. It's a yes or no. And if it's a no, then that's fine. Go and find someone else to deliver this work. She couldn't get her head around that. So I had the conversation. I was like, I'm really sorry. I said, but this isn't a negotiation. These are my terms and conditions of work, and so it's kind of a yes or a no situation. And she was like, well, no, I want to work with you, but I don't want this, and this. And I was like, well, then you cannot work with me because these are my terms and conditions. And I was like, well, we won't work together then. And on it was like she kept ringing me and kept ringing me. And I was like, some people are so entitled. Like,
Yeah.
I'm really lucky now because like all my clients are gorgeous people and they're all so, so lovely. And it's been ages since I had to deal with anybody like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like I sometimes still can't get my head around the fact that there are people floating around out there who are just how it's like they have no self-awareness at all.
They don't. They don't though, because previously, for that person, other people have gone back and they've agreed and they've treated it like it's normal. You're probably the first person who's ever pushed back and gone, the fuck is this? Honestly, honestly. And I've had it before with I've had it before with people like colleagues going, oh well, this person's like this with me. And I'm like, well, they're not like that with me. And they're like, well, how are you doing that? And I'm like, boundaries. You just say to them, you absolutely will not talk to me like that. You will pay me in advance, or you'll pay me on time, or as agreed. Like, no. To the point though, where I had to call myself an implementer, or I choose to call myself an implementer rather than a virtual assistant, because that term, that virtual assistant, for some reason makes some people think that they're below them and that they can talk to them like they're a piece of shit because they're just an assistant. So I was like, absolutely not. And there's like a massive thing within the community where it's like, what do we call ourselves to make sure that we are getting that level of respect? Obviously, it comes from more than just a title. It comes from what you'll accept and the way you treat people and you'll allow yourself to be treated. But I was like, I'm not calling myself a virtual assistant. I'm calling myself an implementer because that's what I do. And there are different levels to it as well with OBMs and ops managers and all that kind of shit as well. But it was just like, got to take assistant. You've got to take assistant out of your fucking title because it's not serving anybody.
Yeah, it's about value and respect, isn't it? And I think that's what I want when I'm working with my clients. Is like, well, I value and respect your time, and I want you to value and respect my work. So it's like when people say to me, oh, is there anything we can do about the price? And I'm like, absolutely, we can double it, we can triple it. Literally, the sky's the limit. What do you want to do? You know, and it's just that certainty
Yeah.
that there'll be a nervous laugh, but they don't ask twice,
Yeah.
because it's like I'm just letting you know that that's not a game I'm going to play with you.
Yeah.
And and also very clear about I don't pick up a pen, I don't do a keyboard stroke until you've settled my invoice, and
Yeah.
then I'm all yours and I'm going to work my bollocks off for you. But it took a good couple of years to get to that point where, well, like you say, I charge up front. I never hand over the work until I've been paid. And the reason I do that is so that I don't have to have difficult conversations, because I hate confrontation and I hate falling out with people and I hate feeling stressed. And I'm someone who struggles with anxiety quite a lot. So I look to make sure that any potential risks to my personal peace are mitigated, and that wherever possible, I'm creating peace in my life and reducing conflict and friction to an absolute minimum. And a lot of that is just being really brutal, really upfront, really open, and really honest right at the beginning. Because, like I say, what I don't want is for somebody to get on a call with me and be like, who the fuck is this person? Because
Yeah.
this is not the person I've been reading in content. Because I guarantee it would be a disappointment. So I have to be exactly like I am in
Yeah.
real life on content, because then they know exactly what they're getting into. And I want someone to rock up to a meeting to feel like they already know me, to feel like we're already friends, and that they can say anything to me and know that it's a safe space, and that, I am exactly how I have appeared to be.
Yeah.
And then, we're all good then.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. I think this has been fun. I like talking about the horror stories because I don't think people, I think again it's another part of the piece is like fear, and I think people are afraid to say, do you know what, like obviously there are the happy posts on Facebook, and then there are people like us who are like, do you know what, this has been a bit shit today as well, like I'm going through this and this fucking sucks. But I think sometimes when it comes to business, like people are afraid to say, I've had shit clients before who have treated me like crap, and I've had to learn from it and go, right, never again. Like never again. And then you learn some really nice experiences where you go, this is exactly the kind of person that I want to work with. And if all of my clients are like this, and it's always like this, it's going to be really easy, and it's like a really great thing. But I think we need to talk about, especially with people coming in, like you feel like you're alone if nobody has the courage to actually say, this happened, then nobody can say it happened to me too. So I think conversations like this are really, really, really important.
And it's like people are really, enthusiastic at talking about, oh yeah, memberships are great, memberships are brilliant, what a brilliant way to create recurring revenue. Nobody talks about what it feels like when the first person leaves your membership,
Yeah.
or when someone says, oh, it was rubbish, or someone asks you for a refund, or a client says, I don't want to work with you anymore. And you take it, I mean, if you're anything like me, you take it to heart. You worry that your service wasn't good enough, or that you've let someone down, or that you haven't done a good enough job. And I remember the most transformative thing that somebody ever saying to me, this is the emotional cost of doing business. This is what it's like. People join memberships, people leave memberships all the time. But until it happens to you, you just think, oh yeah, I'm going to get like 10 people in my membership. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to earn like this £1,000 every month. And nobody ever says, okay, and the next thing you need to think about is your turnover and your attrition, because members leave, members come in, members leave, members come in. And for the first year running my membership, my guts were in bits. But every time someone left, and people leave on a Friday, right?
Yeah.
Send you an email last thing on a Friday going, oh, I really loved it, but I want to leave. And I'm like, oh, mate, like that's my weekend ruined.
Oh no.
You have to learn to take it on the chin and be like, it ain't about me, it's about what's going on for you, you
Yeah.
know? And it's such a learning curve. And like you say, people aren't talking about that. People are like, oh, this is the sunny side of business. Look at me, I'm really successful. Nothing
Yeah.
bad ever happens to me. I never feel like a failure. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, but that's not true, is it? Because you've let people down, and people have let you down, because that's life.
Yeah. I think there's this massive pressure. I was talking about this on a different episode where it's like you get to the point where you're all in on your business and you're doing it full time, and then you get to the point where that's not good enough anymore because everybody else who's telling you that you need to get to like 5k months, and then once you get to the 5k months you have to get to 10k months, and then once you're six figures you have to be multiple six figures, and then when you're multiple six figures you have to be seven figures, and you can't just be content with where you're at. a good week can't just be that nobody unsubscribed from your mailing list. It has to be that you've done like a 6-figure launch. And it's
Yeah,
just
it's
like,
that constant needing to, it's that striving energy, isn't it? And it's like,
ah,
and I was there until I hit perimenopause. I was there. I was pushing, pushing, pushing. And then I got to perimenopause. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I just need to be able to sustain. I just need to be able to maintain. And that is good enough for me where I am now. And if I can maintain and not go a little bit backwards, that would be amazing. If I have to go backwards, because that's what I need to look after myself, then I'm happy for that as well. As long as I can pay my mortgage, I really don't give a shit because I'm in a one-horse race.
feel exactly the same. And that's what I'm saying. Why can't success just be that nobody unsubscribed from your mailing list or nobody left your membership that week? And actually that's good, because now you can have a nice weekend and you don't have that like, oh great feeling.
Mm.
It's just, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Mm. But for a group of people who don't take any annual leave and don't get any sick pay, it's a
Right.
lot of push, isn't it?
Right. Exactly. What is it? More money, more problems. It's just like, it doesn't matter what level you're at.
Yeah.
It's still, I mean, it's easier, don't get me wrong. I don't want to ever pretend that like it was easier when I was working 3 jobs and on benefits. Like, this is easier. I
Mm.
like it a lot more. I'm happier here, but there are still hardships that come with it. And I think people strive to the next level thinking like, oh, well, when I'm there, it won't upset me if somebody leaves my membership, because it won't matter, because, my money's coming from somewhere else. It will still get to you. Of course, it's still going to get to you. I know people who are at that level and it gets to them.
But do you know, you saying about being benefits, I was thinking the other night about when I used to have to go and stand outside the post office on a Tuesday morning with my gyro book.
Yeah.
I was on income support back in the day. So this is like 2000. So you'd go and you'd have your stamp and then they'd pay you out your money. And I think it was like £90 a week. And I just was thinking like how much has changed and how little has changed as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And it's just, but for me, because I still have to budget, I still have to do sums, and I still have to, be really careful about where my money goes. The biggest thing that's changed around my money is my self-esteem.
Yeah.
I don't have to stand in a queue on a Tuesday morning with a group of other people who also look really ashamed. There's
Yeah.
no shame about where my money comes from, and I feel really sorry for that kid who was standing outside the post office doing the best she could with what she had,
Yeah.
under the circumstances, single parent, no support from anyone, to get to here where I am now. And I'd love to go back in time and say to her, you've got nothing to be embarrassed about.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I think, well, if I have traveled that much distance, who knows where I'll be in another 20 years?
Oh,
I could,
minted, mate.
I could be
Running.
on a yacht. I could be on a yacht in the Caribbean. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. With sand in your badge.
Yeah, with sand in my vag, sending people shitty messages because they've how fucking dare you?
Where's my pina fucking larder?